Hello everybody and welcome to the Football Philosophy channel. It's the day after we've got beaten, a disaster in Leipzig last night. 3-2 United got beaten, crashed out at the Champions League. Obviously 3-0 down at one stage, 2-0 down really early in the game. The first goal being literally after about 4 minutes, an absolute shocker. Quite a lot of people saying that it really went wrong in Turkey. We should have got the 3 points in Turkey, which is a fair point. But I'd like to point out really that we had 2 games left in which we needed 1 point from 2 games and couldn't achieve 1 point from 2 games. I believe, though, look, it's fair enough to point back to the Turkey game, but it's far enough back. We had perfect opportunity to retrieve the situation. We just needed 1 point from 2 matches, and the way we went about those 2 games, in my opinion, was nothing short of a disgrace. I heard Ollie after the game against PSG saying when you looked at the 2 team sheets, you knew there was going to be plenty of goals in the game, and not that Owen Hargreaves has got anything to do with it, but a similar attitude from a pundit who's played for Man United and who is, generally they are supporting Man United, even though they're just pundits on the TV. But he said last night that to expect lots of goals in the game. Look, they're both barking up the wrong tree, Ollie and Owen Hargreaves. We didn't want games, Leipzig needed to win, PSG needed to win. They needed goals in the games. They were quite happy going into a game expecting goals. We should have been trying to play a tight game, a cagey game. We would have been happy with 0-0 in either game or 1-1. We didn't want games with lots of goals in them. So United's team shape was an absolute disgrace in both games. Obviously, I'm going to talk mainly about last night. Last night was our last chance saloon. We needed 1 point, and to go with the format that he went with was appalling to me. 5 at the back, don't mind that. I said that yesterday. Don't mind 5 at the back, but you cannot afford. I know Bruno's named as a midfield player, but he's playing as a number 10. He plays too far forward, so Bruno's playing sort of between the strikers and the midfield, and then you've got Greenwood and Rashford as split strikers, and you've only got 2 men in midfield. And 2 men in midfield is just not enough, and we just got overwhelmed. I heard Glenn Hoddle in commentary say that they seem to have an overload in midfield. Even Glenn Hoddle didn't point out why. It's pure and simple why they had an overload in midfield. We only had McTominay and Matic. And I've had people talk to me already about McTominay and Matic didn't really work, because I said it's our best pairing for centre midfield. If our 2 central midfield players were the best 2 central midfield players you could think of, defensive players, if it was, I don't know, if it was Kante and Partey, we still would have got beat. It's no good having 2 players in midfield. They can't cover the full width of the pitch. I did a little video clip last night on Rick the Reg UK on Twitter. It's been viewed by 80,000 people. If you want to have a look at it, explaining what was wrong with our team shape. And is the first photograph up? There's a photograph coming up, if it's not on yet, of United last night in the first. This is just before they score, and I've actually written a diagram. Can you see that? Okay, yeah. So I've drawn a diagram there of United's team shape. Sorry, that's the wrong one. Just before they score. So this is the team shape just before they score, and in the picture, how's that better? In the photo, you can see this. You can see the 3 forwards. Bruno's in the middle, Greenwood's on the right, Rashford's on the left. They're all just inside the Leipzig half. You can see McTominay and Matic. You can't see all the back 5 players, but obviously the back 5 players are a little bit deeper. But in the photograph, it's not a big enough scan of the pitch. But basically, that's United's team shape. 4 minutes into a game in which we don't even need to score a goal. Of course, it's nice if you can score a goal, but you need to get a foothold in the game. You don't need the most important priority is not to let them score early. That is if they score early, you're going to be tempted to come out more. You're probably not going to hang on and still be 1-0 with 20 minutes to go and then try and get a goal back. The most vital thing in that game first of all, is not to let them score in the first 5 minutes, then not to let them score in the first 15 minutes, and hopefully get to half time without letting them score. That's what your mindset should be like in a game like that, where you only need a point against such tough opposition. So this shape was a shocker. So these two midfield players have got to cover the whole width of the pitch. The red dot, by the way, is their player who's on the ball. So their player is on the ball. This is the player who ends up crossing it, and they end up scoring. If we played more like this, so now, I mean, it wouldn't suit Bruno being in that position, but that would be Bruno just inside their half. This is how Spurs play when Spurs are defending, when they've not got the ball. So Bergwijn drops into there and Son drops into there. Now, I've had people there's a lot of people grasping what I've said on the thing on Twitter. As I say, it's on Rick the Red UK on Twitter. There's a good explanation on there of what should be done and the shape that we should have been in. You don't need people necessarily to win the ball. They just need to be in position. It's called team shape. So if you're in position, maybe he can't cross it. He has to turn back, pass it to a defender. You're just forcing them back up the pitch. So you need four players across the midfield like that. If we go back to the way we were shaped up, these two players, they don't need... Is that in the screen, yeah? Yeah. These two players do not want to have a big gap between themselves. So they move over as a pair. Imagine the space on this side of the field if they move over as a pair. And if one moves over, there's too big a gap through the middle. So you need more players in the middle of the field. It's too easy for Leipzig because we haven't got enough players behind the ball. Back to this one, how we should have been. This should be Greenwood. This should be Rashford. It might not be a natural game for them, but that's where they should be, just like the Spurs wingers would be if they were defending, and particularly defending against a good side, and even more so in a game where you don't even need to win. All you need is to draw. You've got to get a foothold in the game. You've got to stop them scoring early. So we've not got enough players behind the ball. Now, a lot of people have grasped what I've said, but there's a few people asking questions, and there's a few people critical. People that are being critical of me on that thing on Twitter. I promise you, it's them that don't understand the game, and I'm going to explain why. I'm going to explain why this is not as defensive a system as it looks at first sight. What I'm going to explain is, if you've got players, the wide players here with a little bit of pace, they can run into the opposition's half without any thought of being caught offside in the first instance. If we win the ball back, they're going this way. They're already running in the right direction. I'm going to put up a few clips shortly of goals that United have scored this season, and you'll see exactly what I mean. If I can just go back to this one. In this picture, this is Greenwood, this is Bruno, this is Rashford. All footballers on a football pitch are supposed to be aware of where the ball is. If you look at the picture, is the picture still up? Yeah. If you look at the picture, you can see that all the players are looking at the ball. So Greenwood, Bruno and Rashford are all looking over here. This is the player who's on the ball. So they're all looking this way. So they've all got the back to goal. So if you imagine, now bear in mind, Rashford's obviously a pacey player. I think Greenwood's a pacey player as well. If we do happen to win the ball back, they've got to turn. They've also got a danger of being offside, but the actual action of turning to run towards their goal takes time. It is not advantageous. In this situation, if we win the ball back, they can run that way without having to turn, and in the first instance, you can't be offside in your own half. They've not got to worry about being offside. So in this situation, they're looking at the ball. They've either got to have it played into feet, or if we do want to go on a quick break, they've got to turn before they can run. And the defenders that are up against them have got an equal chance. The defenders have got to turn just like they've got to turn. In this situation, they're already facing in the right direction and they don't need to turn. It's not just about turning either. I was going to mention something about if you're running from here into this half, you've got a rolling start. You've got a rolling start. You're already running and the defenders are stationary as you start to run at them. You'll see in the pictures that I'm about to put up, you'll see the advantage of having a rolling start. But just a quick explanation of a rolling start. Please excuse me for drifting into a different sport, but it's only going to take 1 minute. Stick with it. Stick with it. This is the advantage of a rolling start. Usain Bolt is the world record holder in the 100 metres. 9.58 is the world record. He's only beaten 9.6 on that one occasion, so call it 9.6. Usain Bolt is a 9.6 man in the 100 metres. The British relay record for the 4 times 100 metres is 37.7. If you divide that by 4, the 4 British runners have done it in 9.36 compared to Usain Bolt's 9.6. On the face of it, it sounds like 4 British runners are faster than Usain Bolt. That's quite a distance, by the way, in the 100 metres, 9.36 compared to 9.6. Also, the reason that it looks like that, for those that, I mean, some will already understand this, I get that, but the reason that it comes out like that is in the 4 times 100 metres, only the first person actually has to start from a standing start or a crouching start, as they do. The first 20 metres are the slowest bit of the race. You build into your speed. So by having a rolling start, you're already motoring. So when he passes the baton to the next man, he's already running. The third man is already running, and the fourth man is already running. So for that average to be 9.36, probably the first man does it in about 9.8 or 9.9, but men number 2, 3 and 4 are doing it in about 9.1 or 9.2, much faster than Usain Bolt's world record of 9.6, because they've got a rolling start. I needed to put that in just to explain that these people that are starting from a deeper position and attacking that half, they've got a rolling start. These people here, if they turn and run this way, they've not got a rolling start. They're starting from a standing position. So that's important. Now I'm going to put a few clips up and explain how that has worked for United in numerous games, with people being deeper, with the wider players being in these positions. I'm going to show what an attacking idea it is, not just a defensive idea. So in the first clip, if we can put clip number 1 up, it's Marcus Rashford's goal just this weekend against West Ham. And is that clip up now? And you can see that photograph, and you can see where Rashford is on the left wing. He's about 8 or 10 yards inside his own half. He's already facing in the right direction. He hasn't got to turn and run towards their goal. The ball, you can see the ball, it's on its way to Bruno, but he knows that there's a chance of Bruno turning it on. What actually happens is Bruno gives it to Juan Mata, and Juan Mata plays it through. But you can see where Rashford's run starts. He's not standing on the halfway line with his back to the defenders. He's deeper, and he's already running towards their half. That's number 1. The next goal I'm going to show you is Bruno's goal at Newcastle. So this photograph is a photograph of Marcus Rashford and Bruno Fernandes. You can see them both circled. Look how deep they are in their own half. And the ball is on its way to Juan Mata. They know that Juan Mata can turn that ball into the Newcastle half. They know they've not got to worry about being offside. They're in their own half, so that's something else that you take out of the equation, and they're on the run. So Mata turns that ball into Newcastle's half. Rashford's already on the run. The defenders have not got a chance against him. They've got to turn. He's already running. He's got a rolling start. And what happens is, obviously, Rashford gets on the ball. Bruno keeps pace with him and overlaps him, and Bruno gets the goal that puts us in the lead. Rashford also scored against Newcastle. This is clip number 3. And if you see this one goes. This is one of the situations where it works and it was okay, but Rashford was actually, when we received the ball, Rashford was on the halfway line. He did have his back to goal. But what you can see here, what this shows, is Rashford has had to turn and run, and the ball is played, and we do end up getting a goal. Obviously, Rashford scores, so it can work, but it shows you how tight it is. I mean, VAR, I remember this game distinctly and I've got it on record. They don't draw the lines. VAR doesn't get involved. I've no idea why VAR didn't get involved in this goal. To me, it looks offside. Make your own mind up on that. But even if it's not offside, it's so tight. So it just shows you the difficulty that you've got when you're starting from the halfway line with your back to goal. It's got to be timed so perfectly. When you're running from your own half, your midfield player who's passing it has got much more chance of getting it right, and your run, your timing of your run isn't as difficult either. So we've got away with that one and we actually scored from it, but it just shows you how difficult it is to get it right when you're starting from the halfway line. The next one is against Brighton. You can see Bruno on the ball. Again, you can see where Rashford is. Marshall's facing up to Bruno. That's the job of the target man, to receive it to feet. The people who are wide, they can get on the bike. So Rashford is, 8 or 10 yards inside his own half, and he's already facing in the right direction, and he's already running. And that is the ball that goes through, and he's on his bike already, and they can't handle his pace because he's got a rolling start. The next one is Rashford against Leipzig. Rashford against Leipzig, a lot of people will remember because VAR did get involved in this one. They thought he might have been offside. And when Bruno actually passes the ball to Rashford, Rashford's about 2 feet inside his own half, so he was onside. And that's why people will remember it, because VAR had to get involved. A lot of people in their memories, they might think that Rashford started his run from the halfway line, but it's not true. This photograph is as United win the ball back. Look where Rashford is. He's more than 10 yards inside United's half. So as we win the ball back, he starts his run. We win the ball, it's shifted to Bruno while Rashford's running, and then Bruno plays it first time and Rashford's in the clear, and he's in the clear because he's run from 10 yards inside his own half, which gives him momentum. A quick thing about the momentum, by the way, it's not always necessary to be absolutely at full pelt. You could be jogging forward. If you're even jogging forward, you're facing the right way and you're already moving, and you can get going quicker much easily than you can from being standing and having to turn. So even if you're jogging forward to give yourself more time to look at the ball and weigh up the situation, you've still got a massive advantage over players that are standing looking rather than being on the move already and moving in the direction that you want to move in. I mentioned in the video clip that's on Twitter already, I mentioned how Spurs are playing at the moment. So I'm going to put a quick photograph up of Son against Arsenal, and you can see this is happening a lot for Spurs. This is Harry Kane turning the ball on for Son, and look how deep Son is in his own half, and he ends up scoring a worldie on this occasion. But it's still because it happens because Son is in one of these positions. Is that in the, yeah. Son is in this position when they win the ball back. This is Kane, so the ball comes to Kane, and Son knows, I can go now. He can go. He knows that he's got all this room to run into before he's even got to consider being offside. That gives Kane time to get the ball under and pass it. He's got a lot more time to control it and do what he wants to do because this man is in his own half. He's onside. It gives him more time on the ball. And he's got the rolling start. So he's absolutely flying by the time he crosses the halfway line. And that's where Son's got his goal from at the weekend. Now, somebody said to me, we don't want to play like Spurs because it's so defensive. Spurs are top of the league. They've scored 23 goals. Only Liverpool with 26 and Chelsea with 25 have scored any more goals than Spurs. And this is how Spurs set up. They've got one striker. They've got Son and Bergwijn who drop in. Whether they're playing 4-4-2, whether they're playing a back four or a back five, they've always got four across the middle of the field. There's always got to be four there when you're defending. As I've just pointed out, it's the best way to be defend. It is the best way to defend by having four across the middle. But at the same time, when you break, it's also the best way to attack. Think about that. This man who's on the ball, this man created a goal for Leipzig last night. Obviously, last night, that was the team shape. So he's on the ball, he creates the goal. We've only got these 2 players, and we've got all these players up the field. If we were like this instead, not only is it more difficult for them to play through the lines, it's more difficult for them to create a chance, it's more difficult for them to keep the ball, but when we get it, we're more dangerous like that than we are like that. It's not as defensive as people seem to think it is. Another thing that was levelled at me, there's a few people saying to me, you know, you wanted Matic and McTominay in midfield. I did want Matic and McTominay in midfield. I still stick by it. It's a team game. The team shape has got to be correct. It doesn't matter who's playing in the team shape has got to be correct. I'll go back to my thing as we were last night. For most of the first half, this was the shape that we were in. You've only got 2 players. These 2 players, they don't want a big gap between them. They've got to move across the park together. It leaves an horrendous gap all over this side. Or if they have to move this way together, they definitely don't want a big gap between themselves. They've got to stay. They've got to move across like that. So if you've got 4 players moving across on block, they don't have to move as far. All the players are covering more area of the pitch. So I mentioned earlier, even if you had maybe Kante and Partey as your 2 holding midfield players, it still would have been a mess. You need to trust me on this. Doesn't matter who the players are. Obviously, the better players you've got, the better, the more chance you've got. But it is not the fault of those 2 players. The likelihood is, if we'd have had Kante and Partey as our 2 holding midfield players, I'm using those 2 players as they seem to be all the rage as defensive midfield players. People seem to think that they're the best ones around. Or if it was Roy Keane and Busquets. If it was Roy Keane and Busquets as our 2 holding midfield players last night. When Keane played for United, he played with, it rolls off the tongue. Anybody of an age knows it was Beckham, Keane, Scholes and Giggs. It was 4 players. It wasn't 2. It was 4 players. Beckham, Keane, Scholes and Giggs. And I was about to say that we still would have got beat if it would have been Keane and Busquets. But really, I should take that back. I'll tell you why I should take it back. If one of these 2 players was Roy Keane, you need to trust me on this, would have been in this shape, because Roy Keane there had been saying to Greenwood and Rashford here, get here, get your jobs done, be in position when they get the ball and get back quick. So if Roy Keane would have been playing, this is the shape we would have been in, and we wouldn't have got beat, or we probably wouldn't have got beat. You never know, they're a top side. No matter what team you put out, they could beat you, but you've got to give yourself your best chance. And with 4 across the midfield, we'd have had, and get this, not only would we have had more chance of not conceding goals, because of the way we wanted to play on the break, if our players would have started from that slightly deeper position more often, we would even have had more chance of scoring goals. I hope you've enjoyed that show. I won't quite cut it off yet. Hope you've enjoyed that show. Sorry if I got a bit exasperated there, but I'm absolutely devastated being out of this Champions League. I'm devastated with our approach to such a big game with so many attacking players. Look, it's not about the attacking players. It's about them knowing that they've got to do their job properly defensively, but also understanding, and when you look at the photographs of where Rashford started his runs to score so many goals this season, that it's an attacking move anyway. It's a really dangerous move to be starting just 10 or 15 yards deeper. So you're better defensively, but it's also better for when you break away. It really is. I hope you've enjoyed that show. If you've enjoyed it, please tell all your friends. Please subscribe. If you didn't enjoy it, don't tell anyone. Keep stum.